Okay, set. So for this project, yeah, we are basically going to be building an events management system, just like the just like Mr. Ambrose requested for. So in this meeting, I'll be talking about a few things, mostly what to help us get started with as developers that we are. So first thing I'll begin with is if you should check your browser, I'll send a link to these documents. I'm using these documents now to basically lead this meeting. So I'll send the link to the group. You can check out the documents because there are a few links inside here, like the link to our repository, the link to install Python, the link to install Git, which you'll be using to work, the link for VS Code, PyCharm, GitHub, that's if you're using your phone to code, and also a tutorial here to use Git and GitHub, which will help you not only in this course but basically anytime you want to code. So for this project, if you're interested in working on it as a dev, you need to have an IDE. For those of us on system, you can either install Python or you install PyCharm. But if you're installing PyCharm, it may not be able to help you if you run into issues. It's VS Code that I'm familiar with. And basically the setup I have here is for VS Code. If you can somehow use PyCharm and it works for you, no problem. But if you have issues, I'm able to assist you with them. Okay, so one thing we should know is that on GitHub is basically a place where we can store our code as developers. So just like chefs work in the kitchen to cook food, GitHub is where developers work to cook their projects. So you need to have a GitHub account. If you don't have one, go to github.com, sign up and create one. Now once you do, I'll drop this link. I have already dropped this link in basically the front end and the back end group, but I'll drop this link again. This is the link to our repository for this project. So some of you have already forked the repository, but if you haven't, as soon as you get here, you see this particular button. What you simply do is you click on the button. It will take you to a new page with a few, it's actually a few questions basically. All you have to do is just follow the prompts and click OK. It's going to copy this project into your own GitHub account so that you can be working from there. Unfortunately, my network is slow. Don't know if I can create this very fast. No, MTN is really MTN is a weapon fashion against us in this country. Okay, so now if you've noticed, it has basically copied this project into my GitHub, and I can be making my own changes from here. If I want to edit the code for the Python and everything, I'll do that. So I would have walked us through the steps of copying this code into our devices, but that setup is kind of heavy and my battery won't permit me to do all of that. So if you don't have a code base yet on your system or your phone, please after this meeting I'd like to get a call from you so that I tell you how to set it up. But just so you know, you have to fork a repo into your own GitHub account and you work from there. Now, the reason why doing this is so that you can be able to edit the code base. Most of us are beginners, and as a result, I can't really trust our code to the point of giving us access to our group's project. So you do this, you code whatever I want to code here, and when it's time, you submit whatever you've added. Now, what do I mean by submit? If let's create a file here. network. So I will name my file. Damn. Okay. Can you guys see the screen now? Give me a sec. What the type of network is this? Okay, sorry for that mishap. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Well, that's a buy Starlink remain. Let me see if I can share my screen again. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Cool. So yeah, I was about creating a file on the repository I just fork into. Yeah, sorry for using the word fork. Unfortunately, that's what GitHub named it. But anyways, so I'll name my file. I'll call this demo.txt and I'll type in some random text. Now I'll save I changes. On GitHub, whenever you make a change, you commit it. We don't use save, we use commit. Basically, a developer term. So after committing, I would see something like this. This basically says this branch is one commit ahead of this repository right here. This simply means that I've made a change. Like for example, now I've added this text file, this demo.txt. So the goal now is to get it to this repo. Remember, what's the place you can edit your code is your own copy of our code base. So once you've done your edits, you're going to see something like this. It's going to give you a notification that there is a mismatch here. Now what you simply do is you click this contribute button. If you're using an Android, if you're using an Android or you're using an iOS, you will not see this button on the app. So you have to come to the website. Speaking of which, if you're on Android, just go to Play Store, download the GitHub app. I'll send the link for this. If you're using iOS, go to your app store, you should see the same app there. Just search GitHub, you have it. But as I was saying, this button you won't find it on the app. So you simply do is you copy the link for your repository. I'll tell you how to do that as soon as you ask me in the group. Unfortunately, there's no time. You copy the link and you open it in your browser. That's when you see this contribute button. So we've made our changes now. We want to request that the changes be added into the general code base. We click contribute. We are going to see a button here, open pull requests. This open pull request is basically saying submit your code. So we click on it. It's going to take us into a new page, ask us some questions. Unfortunately, this is not a what they call it. We are not pushing code for an industry, so you don't have to type anything here. Just click create pull requests. So once you click this create pull requests, I can basically work through. I'll see your submission. I'll get an email for your submission, and then I can add what you just did to faculty repository by just simply merging it. All this big grammar I'm speaking, you will understand it better after you've gone through this Git and GitHub tutorial. I'll send the link for this tutorial to the group chat. Luckily, it's just 15 videos, and if you know how to do your YouTube settings, it won't burn data. Whether you watch this video now or later, eventually you will need it because this is not the only thing you're going to code as a computer science student. So that's just that. I'll send the link to the repository. You fork it and you do whatever code you have to do there. Because after this meeting, I'll be assigning task. Now, once you have forked your own repository, the if you're on desktop, you have to clone the repository. The setup for that is in this meeting file. I'll send to the group. Sorry, I think people are trying to join the meeting. Okay, nobody. So basically, this is what our code base looks like now. We have a VS Code folder inside here. You ignore it. We have a documents folder. I'll touch that very soon. We have our previews, we have static, and we have templates. So what are all these things for? Basically, in our app.py, this file here, this is where we um, run our Flask app. So basically, we initiate Flask here. We register our blueprints. I'll talk about those later. We create a database tables and we run the app. So these blueprints, what are they? Your blueprint is basically this our app now has a front end and a back end. So we to avoid problems, I basically divided the front end and the back end into two different parts. So the front end part is this pages parts. That is in pages.py. So if you add a new page, you come to pages.py. This is for the front end devs only. You come to pages.py here and you add your new templates. For example, a if I create an about.html, I add in some code. Let's see about, and I want to make this code show. Basically, all I do is I come to my terminal, I run the Python app. For this particular app, the file you're going to run is app.py, not main.py. This is a little different from Mr. Ambrose's class. So you run, if you're on Windows, it will be Python app.py. If you're on Linux like me, it will be Python 3 app.py. So once you run it, you have your server link here. You click on it, open the code in your browser. Yes. So this is our homepage currently. We'll make edits to it. So now I want to add this about page. If I visit slash about now, I'll get an error. So what I simply do is I go to pages.py, I add a page. So I'll say pages.routes slash about, and then I render the templates. Return render templates about.html. Okay, I've not defined the function. Okay, now if I should reload. Oh, Python crashed. Interesting. Let me run that again. So yeah, if I reload, I get my about page. Let me add content into it. This is the about page I save. Yeah. So basically, this is how we add new routes. That's for the front end devs. Basically, what you'll be doing is you write your HTML, you add your HTML through pages.py, and everything should work. But by the way, for the front end devs, if you have things like CSS or images or JavaScript, whatever you want to do, put them in the static folder. Don't put them in templates. If you put them in templates, you have problems. So you basically put them in your static folder. Like if I want to define CSS for my about page, I can just say inside the static folder and say about.css, and I make the HTML page have a background color of red. If I go to about.html, I can add that style sheet. So if I reload about.css, okay. That's oh sorry, this should be href. Ah, I have a lot going on. Style sheet href is equals to about.css. Yeah. So if I reload this, we get a black background. So any asset you have, any static asset you have, CSS, JavaScript, images, fonts, put them in the static folder. Don't put them anywhere else, and it just works. So that's for the front end devs. Now for the back end, the Python file you'll be editing is its own special file. That's going to be api.py. Like here I've defined, and what, yeah, one thing you should note please, On your API.py, I've already added a prefix. By you guys should know what a prefix is. A prefix is basically the word that starts a sentence. Sorry, that how do I even put this? Omo, I know pass English. If you have a word and that word starts with a particular format, like WH, all those WH questions, WH is a prefix. I added a prefix here. So that prefix is slash API. If you want to make an API route, let's say you want to make API slash hello world, if you put this here, you will have a problem. This is not going to work. Let me just show that for you. If I go to localhost 5000, I say API slash hello world, I'll get an error because of this prefix here. So basically what you do is you ignore this slash API parts. Just put the hello world. Once you do that, it works. So please, for the backenders, take note of that. Okay. And also, yeah, for the backend devs, I have defined a few functions inside here. For now, we'll be using SQLite as a database, but before the day of the project, we'll discuss some migrations. That is a private chat for us. So basically, here I've defined two functions. One is to get a database connection, which you can use to interact with our database, and the other is to create the tables we need. So you're going to have a users table, you're going to have an events table, you're going to have registrations, you're going to have ticket options, you're going to have tickets. Remember, we are building an event management system where we can make events, sell tickets, have users, and all that. So if you check, you're also going to see a database file that's planora.db. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, we are calling our projects Planora. The name just came randomly, so don't think about it. So I have an extension here that helps me to view the code in a database. Once you, yeah, if you're using GitHub, the moment you open this code base sorry, if you're using VS Code, the moment you open this particular code base, you get a notification about recommended extensions. Please install all of them. If you don't install them, you will have random errors. For example, one extension makes me be able to view this database like this. Unfortunately, it's an empty database, there's no content inside it. Another extension helps me to view Markdown files, and then another extension helps me to write Python code so that if there's an error, it will give me a little red line here. So please, when you get the notification for your extensions, install them. If you're using PyCharm, God be with you. But if you're using VS Code, please install those extensions. It will help and to help me so I'll answer less questions. Okay, yeah, so about the extensions, I basically included some extensions for Python, included another one for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Um, then I added one for testing APIs. I don't know if any of you have heard of Postman or Thunder Clients, but basically what Thunder Clients does is that it enables you to test your APIs without needing to open your browser. Like for example, that Hello World example I did, I don't have to open the browser. All I simply have to do is just stay here in Thunder Clients, type in the URL. Okay, I think this is just it. So as I press send, oh, connection was refused by the server. Okay, I made an error. So if I press send, I should get back my results. So for the backend guys, you will love this extension. The Yes, you will just love it, and you figure out how to use it. It's very easy. So I have spoken about app.py where we run the Python app. I've spoken about the pages.py where we are going to have different HTML pages. I've spoken about API.py where the API guys are going, sorry, the backend guys are going to be writing their APIs. Then I've spoken about db.py, where we are going to have our database logic. So as you all know, our templates go inside the templates folder. If you've been attending Mr. Ambro's classes, I don't have to explain that one. Our static files, like I said earlier, CSS, JavaScript, fonts, images, whatever you have to add that is not HTML goes inside the static folder. Now, previews. Yeah, for our app, we don't really have time to consult a UI UX designer like we did last time. Sorry, I've been speaking for a while. Please, is anybody that has questions before I proceed? I feel like I've been rushing since. Does anyone have questions? Actually, I'm not did the meeting. Okay. If we are all, can I get some reactions? Okay, that's actually helpful. So yeah, like I said, we don't have time to start looking for designers for this project. So if you use VS Code, I do not know if this works in PyCharm. I unfortunately I don't have PyCharm, so I can't even check it. But basically, if you open these previews parts, all these SVGs here basically give a design, shall I say, a mock UI of what we're going to be doing. For example, our homepage will look something like this, where we have a header, we're going to have a featured event, and then we display the upcoming events. Our create event page, that's the page where users can create events, will look like this. Our user profile will have something like this. Yeah, once you clone this code base, if you're using your phone, if you're using phone also, you won't see this. If you're using phone, you have to go to GitHub. Let me see if I can show you how to do that on GitHub. Someone wants to join the meeting. Please, okay. Let's see. Pardon, my network is very slow at the moment. Okay, so if you're using your phone, unfortunately, you have to open a repository, a GitHub repository in your browser, not the GitHub app. You have to open it in your browser. Then once you open it, you will come to this previous folder. You see the different items here, click on any one. Now once you click on it, ensure that this preview part is selected. If you click code, you're going to be seeing things that you don't understand, things like this. But if you click preview, then that's when you get the image. And you can also download the image. If you're using a phone, I think there are some apps that allows you to view this as an image, but I'm not sure. I'll check that later on. Yeah, so that's that. We have different pages here. Even attendees lists. That's the list of those that are attending the event. Uh, Ticket purchase, where we purchase tickets, and my events, which is the events the user has created and stuff like that. So the front end people, this previous folder, please treasure it. I'll be assigning task. I'll ask you to make a page, and the UI you will need for that page, the basics will be inside this previous folder. Just check it and see how you can write the code to make it look like that. Speaking of the front end, if you check our docs folder, I have a file inside here. It's called styles.md. If you open it and it looks like this, simply right click on the file and click on open preview. or you simply do Control Shift V. Let me do that. Now, once you do that, it's going to open a different UI in your VS Code. Once again, I do not know if this works in PyCharm. This is one of, please, if you can use VS Code, please use VS Code. I know Mr. Amber said should use PyCharm, but for this project, use VS Code so that you won't ask me too much question. I can't really explain things. So yeah, for our app, we're going to start with the light mode. Basically, these are the type of colors we'll be using. For our background, we have this color. For our foreground, that's for text, we have this color in light mode though. Our primary colors, that's for buttons, for highlights and active elements. We have this secondary color. Basically, when you open this document, this styles.md file, once you open the preview, you see the name of the colors, how they look like, what their purpose is. You see all those things. You see all those things inside here. And yeah, once again, the extensions that come up, please install them. I think there is an extension you will need. Yeah, this particular extension, GitHub Markdown Preview. That is extension. That was the MD preview. It won't look like this. You'll be seeing something else and you won't understand it. So this is one of the recommended extensions. Please make sure you have it. It will help you. Whether you're doing front end or you're doing back end, please install this because most of the tips I'll be giving you, I'll write them as Markdown files. And the only way you'll be able to read it properly is if you have this extension. So I think that should be all for the front end. Okay, one more thing. One more thing. For those of us that are doing backend, I don't know if you guys have heard of Swagger or Open API. Basically, as devs, whenever we're working with APIs, we have a standard way of doing things. Let me see if I can open the preview. That's quite interesting. Do not work. Um, Swag. Okay, yeah. So in a docs folder, we have an openapi.yaml file. Now, once you open that file, in your VS Code, just type Control Shift P. You're going to see a command palette, something like this appear. Type in Swagger. This will only appear once you've installed the recommended extensions. So please install them. I will say this and say this again. Any extension that is recommended, install it. So yes, you see Preview Swagger, you click on it. Once you click on it, it's going to open a new place for you in VS Code. So this page on your VS Code now describes the different APIs we are going to have. For example, we have an API for registering users, and it's also going to define how that API works. So here we can see that this API, you're going to pass an email, password, and username in the form, and then it's going to respond with the username, the email, and user ID. We also have another API here for login. We have another one for logouts. We have one for events and all that. So please, for the front end people, if you're making your UI and you know that you're going to hit one of these API endpoints, refer to this openapi.yaml file. This file is going to help you a lot so that we won't have issues with debugging and all that. Then for the backend people, this file is where you will leave. Basically just describes how the project works. Please do not edit the file. Nobody should edit the file. If you edit it, I reject your edits until you go back and put what was there. But yes, you have to follow this setup in order to get the app working. So the extensions I recommended, this Git Lens is one of them. Basically, what Git Lens does is it helps you to know who puts what where. For example, as I'm here, if you look closely, you will see, yeah, you see something like this. This basically says that I'm the one that wrote this code. in this place. Now, if I go to another file here, this one has a different name now. It says Gideon Jones update requirements. So if you're having problems in the code, you see something that should not be where it is, or if you see something you don't understand it. If you have Git Lens, as soon as you drop your cursor on that line of code, Git Lens will tell you who put that code and when they put that code. So you can basically contact the person and ask them what they did and ask them to explain it. That's that. So Thunder clients, like I said, for those of us working with APIs, you can use Thunder client to test your APIs, whether in this project or another project. If you're looking for something more powerful than Thunder client, you go for Postman. Then SQLite Viewer. This is where I used to view a database. If you're using, if you normally VS Code does not allow you to view the DB files. If you want to open a .db file in your VS Code, you have errors. But once you have this extension, this SQLite Viewer, be able to view the tables in your database and the content inside them. I think you can even add contents, but I've not tested that before. I don't think I have time for it. Another extension here is Prettier. Now, Prettier is to make your code look clean. Yes, so that it's more understandable to read. Don't worry, all you have to do is just install the extension. It's going to run automatically in the background. I made sure of that. So just install it. Once you write code, it makes it more readable. So you don't have to look at your screen as if you want to die and all that. And then finally, Black Formatter. So Black Formatter is like Prettier, but for Python. It makes your Python code look nice. Your Prettier makes your JavaScript, CSS, and HTML look nice. This one does the same thing, but for Python only. Haven't I touched here? Interesting. So, speaking of task, still inside that docs folder, I have task here. I have a lot of tasks. So I have tasks for both the front end and the back end. And I need to assign these tasks to people. Um, let's see. Do I do the assigning here or in a different groups? I don't know if doing the assigning of task here is going to be a good idea. Okay, in a different groups. So, all right, all right, different groups. So I guess after this meeting, I'll send the link to this particular file, and everybody will pick task until the tasks are done. Now, once you've picked your task, I'll put your name here. Now, if you've done your tasks, I'll tick this box. If you've not done your task, while I go do you. Exams is starting 11th, and we have to finish this project before 11th. So please, my front end and back end people, I need you guys to be very, very active. So yeah, for the back end, basically what you see here is the routes. That's the Don't worry, backend people should understand routes. Let me not stress myself there. You see the route for the endpoints. You see the method for the endpoint, whether it's a post, is a put, is a delete, is a get. If you don't understand what those things mean, ask me after the call. Then you see the purpose of that route. Like the register route is for creating new users. You see how to implement it. No, sorry, you see, yes, how to implement it. For example, in the register, you have to validate the form, see whether the user has passed in the correct data. You have to forget about hashing the passwords. You return a JWT and all that. For the front end, same thing. You see the route, you see the purpose of the route, you see the implementation steps and all that. So tax.md, you can go to your GitHub or your VS Code and view this file. And also you can be checking it to know if you have a new task or you've completed your task. For the ticking, I'll do the ticking myself. Once you've done your task, I'll tick it and we move on. So yeah, I think that's I not touch anything here. Oh yeah, so contribute. I really don't know how to explain this because there is no time. But basically, if you have questions for contributing, once you've edited, like now, um, this link. Come on, network is bad. My PC will soon die. I might have to touch this later on. I might have to touch this later on. But yeah, basically, this is a group projects repo. Now, once you have, like you can see here, it's on Faculty of Computing. That's what our faculty is called on GitHub. Once you've forked the repo, it's going to create a copy on your own account. Like here, you can see Michael Neon Edwin. That's my name on GitHub. I can edit this. Once I've edited it, I make a pull request. If you don't recall how to do pull request, you can either ask me or you watch the Git on GitHub tutorial. I'll send the links to the group, to the different groups. Yes. So if there's anybody that has any questions, please can they unmute their mics and ask? My PC is about to die. Hmm. You guys really understood everything I said. Okay, fine. All right, all right. So after this, if your phone is still on, you start doing task. Yeah, speaking of screen recording, let me save this one ASAP for my laptop off.